Yeah, Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks is an awesome game and was a great success at that. But did you know that there was a sequel that began development following its release? The game that could have been and never saw the light of day, Mortal Kombat Fire and Ice, was slated to be the follow-up to the much adored Mortal Kombat spinoff, Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, featuring Scorpion and Sub-Zero. The game would retain all the aspects that made Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks so great. The sense of adventure and scale, the tight, action-focused gameplay, the exploration of the intricate Mortal Kombat lore, and best of all, experiencing all of this with a friend in two-player co-op. The premise was solid. Make a game about two characters at odds, the yin and yang of Mortal Kombat, tasked to work together to overcome the challenges that lay before them. But the game never progressed past the preliminary stages of development. Here, we dive into the game that could have been, the follow-up to the most successful spin-off game in Mortal Kombat history, the Mortal Kombat game no one played, Mortal Kombat Fire and Ice. To get a better understanding of this canceled Mortal Kombat game, we need to first revisit the inception of Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks and how it paved the way to being one of the best 3D Mortal Kombat games ever created. Released in the fall of 2005, Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks was then developer Midway's first foray into making an action-adventure style 3D Mortal Kombat game, built from the ground up for two-player co-op. Developed by Midway LA, later renamed as Paradox, this was their first game, but contained many developers who had worked on previous Mortal Kombat games, including Ed Boon, the co-creator of the Mortal Kombat franchise, serving as the game's creative director, even though he remained in Chicago at the main studio. Centered around Mortal Kombat's popular Shaolin monks, Liu Kang and Kung Lao, the game took players on a grand 3D action-adventure that retold the events that took place during Mortal Kombat 2, focusing more on each of the characters that were featured in the iconic game from 1993. By allowing players to explore fully 3D renditions of classic maps like the Pit and the Living Forest, to name but a few iconic maps from MK2, Shaolin Monks proved to serve an incredible rush of nostalgia for Mortal Kombat fans, and the fun co-op gameplay was really the icing on the cake. Of course, the game could be played single player, and while that is certainly a fun way to play the game, Shaolin Monks was developed with co-op play in mind, with Ed Boon and his team from Midway wanting to position the game away from the 1v1 combat that was associated with the traditional Mortal Kombat games, and instead have players work together to overcome challenges as a team. Able to level up both Liu Kang and Kung Lao by accruing experience points awarded from killing enemies and collecting tokens, players could unlock more moves for their characters, learn new fatalities, brutalities, and more that added variety to the combat. While the game wasn't particularly long, clocking in at around 4 or 5 hours per playthrough, there were tons of secrets to find, fatalities to unlock, character cameos to unearth, and characters to unlock for both the game's 1v1 versus mode and the campaign. Of these characters were Scorpion and Sub-Zero, characters that would ultimately be selected for a follow-up game to Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, who were slated to star in their very own Mortal Kombat game. The stars were aligned for a proper follow-up to Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, with the game having sold very well at the time with over 1 million sales, rivaling the success of the previous two 3D-era Mortal Kombat games, Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance and MK Deception. With a Metacritic average at a respectful 7.7 and with a user score of an incredible 8.9, there was certainly a lot of praise thrown at the game, so why didn't we end up seeing the follow-up to Shaolin Monks? It was late 2005. The year was coming to a close, and Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks had recently been released to much acclaim. Developer Paradox had begun development on the game's follow-up, and instead being a direct sequel to Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, the team wanted to focus on another pair, a duo that were, and still are, arguably two of the most iconic figures in the franchise, Scorpion and Sub-Zero. The game's timeline and setting have not been disclosed, as unfortunately, not a lot of work was done to the game, as the game's cancellation happened quite abruptly. Ed Boon spoke to Game Informer back in 2010 about the canceled project. This is what he had to say about the follow-up to Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks. When they finished Shaolin Monks, the guys at Paradox were gonna do another one called Fire and Ice. It was gonna be a cooperative Scorpion and Sub-Zero game. They actually started the early stages of that game, but they couldn't do it in time and under budget, so the project was canceled and kind of went away. Officially canned early the following year in 2006, details of Mortal Kombat Fire and Ice remain largely a mystery to this day, but we do have some details and screenshots about what the game could have looked like. Mortal Kombat Fire and Ice was going to be developed for the Xbox 360 and the PS3, and with the team getting the dev kits to develop for the next generation of consoles, there was a lot to learn about developing for new systems, which, as many studios and developers know, takes a lot of time and resources to adapt to new hardware. While not explicitly stated, it can be implied that this was a contributing factor as to why the game was cancelled, and resources were instead allocated for the ambitious Mortal Kombat game that would release that same year in 2006, as Mortal Kombat Armageddon for the PS2 and Xbox. On your screen is a look at a rendered design for a location developed for Mortal Kombat Fire and Ice, showcasing a frigid cave area lit by a few braziers dotting the area with long and sharp icicles protruding downward from the cave ceiling. We see what looks like a character next to one of the braziers, but its identity is undiscernible from its blurry appearance. This second and final piece of art shows what may be featuring the same exact location, but from a different perspective, again highlighting a blurry figure, perhaps an NPC, and also showcases the night sky with the moonlight casting a glow through the clouds, and the enormous icicles in the cave. We also see the pillar on the left, sporting an engravement of what looks like people praying, potentially alluding to some sort of temple of worship. The rendering looks really nice, and very much looks like an evolution from the graphics in Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, while retaining that signature Mortal Kombat feel. I feel like this artwork pairs really well with the pit setting featured in MK Shaolin Monks, but with the moon and twilight concept present in both settings. While there isn't much of anything else to report about Mortal Kombat Fire and Ice, as there hasn't been anything disclosed about the game since its cancellation and brief instances of Ed Boon mentioning it over the years, it isn't entirely off the table that we may not see more Mortal Kombat games like a Mortal Kombat Fire and Ice or a Shaolin Monks. Ed Boon regularly takes to Twitter, or X, and regularly references Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, or even asks fans about certain games receiving the remaster or remake treatment. And Shaolin Monks, time and time again, is always the fan pick to receive such an update. Interestingly enough, Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks was planned to receive an HD remaster for the Xbox 360 and PS3, but for some reason was scrapped. With enough of a push from fans, I wouldn't be surprised to see a remaster or remake of Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks. With more developers diving into their catalogs and remaking fondly remembered games in this remake era of gaming, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Shaolin Monks get at least a remaster treatment at some point. Considering the game does well, we may then finally be able to see this cancelled Mortal Kombat game resurrect itself, where we can play as both Scorpion and Sub-Zero in a modern 3D action-adventure game. While Mortal Kombat's foray into the action-adventure genre was short-lived, its legacy and the fans that continue to sing its praises may one day lead to more games like this in the Mortal Kombat universe. With MK1 just around the corner, and with so many fans invested in both games and the recent movies coming out, it goes without saying that many things end up disappearing or dying in Mortal Kombat, yet those very things always seem to resurrect themselves and resurface when we least expect them. Who thought we would get another Mortal Kombat movie, let alone see Darius of all things be a cameo fighter in Mortal Kombat 1? My point is, Mortal Kombat is always evolving and is always changing, yet many aspects of the series past manage to find their way into the present. And there is no more glaring title in Mortal Kombat's repertoire that is set up to be revisited more than Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks. And with that, may we finally be able to see more games like it, like a potential Mortal Kombat Fire and Ice be reborn from the ashes. Let me know if you'd like to see Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks get a re-release on current platforms, and let me know if you'd be interested in a game like MK Fire and Ice. I know I would, so let's continue pushing these games to Ed Boon and crew to see it happen. Watch this video if you are interested in learning more about new character reveals, minigames, and more about the upcoming MK1, and I look forward to seeing you all real soon in the next one.